just be ready. The comments will go from compliments to abusive over the course of like 4 months. Welcome to Vigorous Mindset. I'm Coach Steve. Let's discuss how to retire from bodybuilding gracefully. Now, this is not an announcement that I'm retiring from bodybuilding. I'm simply on a bodybuilding vacation while I get my health 100% in order and resolve this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which unfortunately remains present after being so proactive for the last 4.5 months and, getting my choline, inositol, and methionine supplementation in. Don't worry about that. I see your comments. Yes, I've been doing that, but I'm still about 50% there. So I'm doing this fasting mimicking diet. It hopefully speeds up the process. And during that time, I won't be bodybuilding. But by the time this issue is resolved and I'm ready to continue with my bodybuilding journey, I will ride the muscle memory train all the way up to 225 pounds or about 100 kilos. And then decide if I want to continue and go back up to 240 or maybe 255 pounds. Let's see. I felt pretty comfortable around 225. So I think I'm going to stay there, stay around 100 kilos, which is still 7 kilos away. Right now, I'm only 93 kgs. Now, this is the third time that I've gone through this process. So I've become a little bit of an expert in how, going on a bodybuilding vacation or retiring from bodybuilding temporarily. Now, it's certainly not easy. It's not easier than the first time or the second time that I went through this process, but I'm happy to share my experiences so you guys know what it's going to be like when you're either forced to stop bodybuilding because of a negative health ramification, or you decide to stop bodybuilding for whatever personal reasons that you're going through. For me, I'm like partially forced right now, and I'm partially choosing to take a bodybuilding vacation because I like to put this effort into work and focus on my business and getting my hypothalamic pituitary testes axis back and, just feel normal for a while. Because yes, testosterone and any other anabolic-androgenic steroid does put a little bit of a change to your personality and your mood and your sense of well-being. And whether that's up or down or left and right, there is an effect which is often overlooked and completely neglected in the discussions of performance-enhancing drugs. But it is there. And now that I'm off all PEDs, well, I'm still on growth hormone. I'm 37, so I feel that it's warranted. But now that I'm off all anabolic-androgenic steroids, I can safely say that there's always some mental side effect and increased aggression or increased heightened state or mood change or, overly happy feelings and sometimes overly aggressive feelings. So I can safely say that now that I'm off anabolic-androgenic steroids. Now, this roller coaster, or, it's basically a downward spiral, right? So you're all this all-time high being a bodybuilder. You're large, you're big, veiny, full, hard, nasty, dense. And you get a lot of compliments or a lot of stares, whatever you prefer. And then you slowly get smaller and weaker and softer and less impressive looking. And you slowly lose that identity that you put all this effort into over the last couple of years. And again, that's not easy, guys. So let's discuss that and let's differentiate between being forced to stop bodybuilding and deciding to stop bodybuilding because the approach is a little bit different. Now, the first thing I did a bodybuilding vacation and I stopped bodybuilding temporarily. I was forced because I got into a motorcycle accident around the age of 23 years old. Man, it's been a long time ago. So right around the time I felt that I reached my natural potential and I was already planning to do my first cycle, I went on holiday to Thailand, rented a motorbike, and got into a motorcycle accident, broke my leg, and I had to be flown home. Now, my first cycle got pushed back for about 2 years, and in the meantime, of course, I went through the grinder of losing most of the muscle and losing all of the muscle in my right leg because I was immobile for about 3 months. And then I slowly had to learn how to walk again. And then I slowly had to learn how to squat again without pain. And then I slowly had to learn how to, get my leg press and my, lunges and all that stuff back up to my previous all-time high and proceed from there. So that took about 2.5 years. And then at the age of 26, I decided to do my first cycle. So I can't say that I feel disappointed that my first cycle got pushed back 2 years later. But I do feel disappointed that I had to stop bodybuilding forced, because it certainly wasn't my decision. And I got hit by a car and fell on the road when I was going a little bit too fast. That was my fault. Getting pushed from the car was not my fault. Anyway, so I was forced to stop bodybuilding at that time, which is very, very tough considering I was going to the gym 5 times a week and eating all the meals that you should be eating, or at least with the knowledge I had back then. I was living like a full-time bodybuilder, 24/7, 365, unless I went on holiday and then, the meals would not be so good, but I would still go to the gym, obviously, because I like to train. So now you go from your, basically your all-time greatest down to being bedridden for 3 months. That was very, very tough. Now, there's a difference between breaking an arm or a leg or your spine or, being bedridden. Well, you know that you're recovering this bone fracture is a little bit different of a mentality than going through a real negative health ramification like kidney failure, for example, or liver cancer or another kind of cancer, or any other, organ stress that you might have gotten through your bodybuilding journey. That's more tough, I will say, because I feel that it's more tough right now that I'm trying to resolve this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because you always have in the back of your head, and you're wondering, is this because of bodybuilding? Is this because of the lifestyle? And I'm sure if you go through kidney failure or plaque buildup and a very high calcium score or, some heart issues or whatever health condition you're faced, if you were bodybuilding at the time, and especially for the bodybuilders that were taking performance-enhancing drugs, when they're forced to go on this bodybuilding vacation to get their health under control, and maybe they have to retire from bodybuilding altogether, depending on the severity of this health ramification. And if they're able to resolve it, you always have this feeling in the back of your head that bodybuilding did this to me. But you have to step away from that because you did it to yourself and I did it to myself. Really, that's the hard, honest truth about it. You enjoyed bodybuilding the best way you saw it possible, the best way you saw fit. Some guys put, health things into practice and some guys don't. I mean, I was very health conscious during the way and I still got something. So, whether that's genetics or, you put everything into place for health, but you're neglecting one important aspect of it and you still get unlucky. You roll the dice and, you get dealt once instead of all the sixes. It's something you have to go through and it's not easy. It's very true. And especially when it comes from your passion and now you have like a negative association with your passion because you're faced with a, health condition, it feels a little bit sour. Yeah, you get a little bit of a sour taste in the back of your head. So you need to make some adjustments. You shouldn't consider yourself a bodybuilder anymore during this time that you're trying to resolve this health condition. And whether that's, being forced and being bedridden with a broken arm or a leg, or you still have that passion for bodybuilding. When you have a negative health ramification, that passion of bodybuilding is a little bit suppressed. And you're not really sure if you want to pick this bodybuilding back up. Now, given that you get your health condition under control and the passion for bodybuilding remains, you can simply pick up where you left off and paying extra special attention to the health condition that you got yourself into. And again, it really depends on which health condition you will have to resolve, which determines if your bodybuilding retirement is going to be temporary or permanent. And it also depends if you have a bitter taste about bodybuilding after resolving this health condition, whether you want to continue forward or not. Because I've seen the bitter taste of bodybuilding many times over in competitors that place second or third or out of the top 5 or dead last, even though they did everything they thought they could have to place as high as first. They get a bitter taste about it because 3 guys, 5 guys, 7 guys on the judging panel didn't put them in first place. And then they discontinue bodybuilding altogether. They're not really forced to retire, but they choose to retire because, they simply throw their hands up in the air and F bodybuilding or F the judges and they pick up another sport or pick up eating. That's usually a very good hobby to pick up right after you put all this effort into a bodybuilding show. Or actually, it's not a good hobby to pick up because you will blow up and, start to look like the Michelin man with cankles. So again, you're forced to retire from bodybuilding, but that's probably, morely a mental state. Now, if you get your health condition under control and you still have the passion for bodybuilding, you can simply continue on your journey and rebuild, as will I, going forward. So the passion, when you're forced to take off from bodybuilding and go on a bodybuilding vacation, that determines if the retirement is going to be temporary or permanent. And the health condition, unfortunately, also, because coming back from kidney failure and whether you get a transplant or not, everything that's involved in bodybuilding, your nephrologist will probably frown upon, whether that's the performance-enhancing drugs, which could potentially raise your blood pressure or put some additional kidney stress because some of the PEDs that we take in bodybuilding are shown to be kidney toxic, increased protein intake, everything else that we do under the sun for bodybuilding, for the sake of bodybuilding, for the love of bodybuilding, your nephrologist or your cardiologist will probably advise against it. And then it's probably better to pick up another sport or be sedentary. Again, it depends on the health ramification that you were dealt with. Now, this is basically being forced to stop with bodybuilding. The mentality of it is that it's very tough. The takeaway from me is when I was forced because I broke my leg is that I didn't consider myself to be a bodybuilder, but I took it as a challenge, as what I'm doing right now. I take it as a challenge to get this health condition under control ASAP, as soon as possible, with everything I could do under the sun to resolve it. When I broke my leg, I looked into, particular diet models, sonic therapy. I actually asked for a growth hormone prescription from my doctor, who didn't give me a growth hormone prescription because he didn't feel it was warranted. And I didn't have the connections back then as I do now. So, I didn't add any growth hormone in, but I did do everything under the sun to resolve that issue as fast as possible. And I took it as a challenge because the doctor told me, you will not be squatting for another year. You will be walking after about 5 to 6 months, considering the severity of the fracture. So I took it as a challenge. I said, okay, I'm going to walk in 3 months. You'll see. And again, I did walk, albeit, embarrassingly slow and very, very painful. I did walk after 3 months. 4 weeks later, after walking, I was able to squat again. So that's 8 months earlier than the doctor gave me a prognosis for. Within 1 year, I was basically lifting pretty heavy again, albeit not for my legs, but for upper body, I was certainly, back up to comparable strength as I had before the accident. So I took it as a challenge. And right now I take this as a challenge as well. I design everything in my life to resolve the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And once it's resolved, we go full steam ahead, albeit with a more healthy approach, even more healthy approach than I did before. So again, for a health ramification, take that condition as a challenge to resolve it. You put everything that you used to put in bodybuilding and you transfer that into medical, into health, into getting it under control. And then you transfer that attention to detail back into bodybuilding. If you decide to continue with your bodybuilding journey again, or your fitness journey, or your strength sport journey, your powerlifting journey, etc., right? Everybody has their different preference. Now, the second time I stopped bodybuilding is by choice. It was purely by choice. I worked for like 5 to 6 years in consultancy. That consultancy firm went bankrupt because of the economic crisis of 2009, 2010. I went through a hefty, long lawsuit to get, a payout of this company because they withhold salary, they withhold my pension, etc. We're not going to go into detail. It was lengthy. Let's just put it that way. And at the beginning of this lawsuit, I decided, I thought, this is going to take about 4 or 5 months. I'm going to do my first cycle during this period because, again, I lost my job. It was difficult to find a job at that time because of the economic crisis. And I felt, I'm going to do my first cycle during this time, and then I'm going to travel. So I'm going to do my first cycle, maybe close it off. I figured, maybe after traveling, I would no longer be interested in bodybuilding. Luckily, I was. I started to miss it about 6 months into traveling. So I did my first cycle. I took my pictures, I got as shredded as it could be at that time. And then I went traveling. I stopped training altogether after about 8 weeks, 3 months. First 3 months I would do like sit-ups, push-ups, a little bit of, what is it called? Jumping jacks. The stuff you see on Instagram, on the Instagram girls' pages nowadays. All that home workout stuff I would used to do in the hotel rooms to keep myself somewhat physically active. And undergoing the same process as I'm doing now. After about 2 months, 3 months, I was like, why am I even bothering? I started to look progressively worse, started to get looking smaller, getting softer, becoming less physically, powerful, less strong. My cardiovascular endurance was going down. And I reached a point where I threw my hands up in the air. Why bother? Why bother putting in this effort? So that's where I am now. And I'm still doing my cardiovascular endurance, of course, because I have a treadmill and an elliptical at home. And I still like to push myself a little bit on those kinds of machines. Get a little bit of a sweat going. And when I was traveling, I was simply walking 12, 14, 16 hours a day, seeing the world, or seeing Asia, most parts of Asia. I didn't travel the world. I traveled through Asia. And sometimes I was on a motorbike. Sometimes I was on a horse. Sometimes I was on a train. But most of the time that was walking. So again, I lost all my muscle. And honestly, I didn't really care. It was very, very easy to let it go because I transitioned from bodybuilding into traveling. And I took that with the same passion I had for bodybuilding. So I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I took my video camera and I traveled, to whatever destination I saw fit, recorded everything I saw for my memory further down the line. So I have all that footage. Some of that footage is on this YouTube channel. Probably if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see some of those travel videos which were recorded, 10 years ago? 10 years ago. So I took that same passion for bodybuilding and put it into traveling. Because I didn't consider myself to be a bodybuilder. I considered myself a backpacker, which I certainly was. I tried to, flip every penny and sleep in those $2, $3, $5 dormitories, which was absolutely horrible. But I'm glad I did it. So in the beginning, it was very, very tough. But again, when I shifted my mindset and shifted my efforts into, being, a little bit more OCD about the traveling aspect and flipping every penny and negotiating everywhere and recording everything and taking pictures and, editing videos and sending that to my family because I didn't feel so confident to put that on YouTube back then. I just transferred my passion into something else. So that's how you deal with it. That's how you deal with losing size, losing strength, starting to look a little bit less appealing, especially less appealing, for the general fitness crowd. And when you come from a background, you have like average genetics and most of the people in your family are kind of skinny fat. That's what you slowly digress into. That's the unfortunate reality of it. And you have to come to terms and come to acceptance, which is a gradual process. In the beginning, you're fighting on for everything that you got. And it's hard. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're disappointed and a little bit upset. And at one point you might feel repulsed. What is it? I went through that at the end of my post-cycle therapy when I increased my calories to, recover testosterone production and all that stuff. And then I walked past the mirror and I got like an adverse reaction. I'll be honest. I wasn't happy with how I looked, man. It's, I wasn't very cosmetically pleasing, especially considering I came off from an all-time high at 115 kgs, moving mountains of weight and still being somewhat reasonably lean. So I got smaller and fatter in the process. I was not happy. So now that I'm doing this fasting, I'm getting smaller, but I'm also getting leaner. And again, I already come to terms that I'm getting smaller, so it's not really a big deal. And again, 93 kgs or 200 pounds is not exactly small. Let's be honest. It's not exactly small. There's a hint of muscle left. I might have to raise that bicep a little bit more, flex it as hard as you can. There's a hint of bodybuilding left. Even when you don't stimulate it, when you go into bodybuilding for 10 to 20 years, there's muscle memory and muscle maturity. And the muscle will remain, to a certain extent. Will it look as cosmetically pleasing and impressive and nasty, hard and dense as it did before? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You will have to come to terms with this. It's a gradual process and it's certainly not enjoyable. But you have to come to terms with this. And if you focus this bodybuilding effort somewhere else, like a business or a relationship or traveling or another sport, maybe you want to pick up swimming or long distance running or cooking. There's many other hobbies out there that you can put the same amount of effort into when you retire from bodybuilding, temporary, or you go, on a bodybuilding vacation, or you retire from it permanently. That passion, that intensity, that OCD mindset that you need to be good in bodybuilding or somewhat, successful in bodybuilding, you simply transfer that somewhere else. And then you take this passion, this desire, this OCD, and you simply exhaust that avenue and make that enjoyable for yourself. And that's the best way to deal with it. Just because maybe you were a one-dimensional bodybuilder in the past and everything revolved around bodybuilding, everything was about bodybuilding, the meals and the training and the injections, and you messed up all the relationships, because you have this bodybuilding goal, you want to be Mr. Olympia. Maybe that goal didn't come into fruition. Maybe you can put all this effort somewhere else, or maybe balance it out. You take your training intensity and you shift that over to relationship. And you take your injection protocol and you shift that over to business. And maybe you can take this crazy dedication to eat clean all the time and bring your meals everywhere, to the cinema, to Valentine's dinner, to Thanksgiving, even though your mother or your parents, they've put all this effort into cooking the absolute most phenomenal Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner for you, you still bring your meals. Maybe you can put this effort into reconciling with your family, with your mom, with your dad, with your sister, brother, your family members for the time that you were, a self-absorbed one-dimensional bodybuilder. So you can spread all this attention out over several different avenues and probably become a better person in the process. Now, before we wrap up this video, let's address on how to deal with the comments that you will get when you slim down. Because I see all of your comments in the comment section. I saw the comments on the videos that we posted on the More Plates, More Dates YouTube channel. When you start to shrink down, a lot of people will try to discredit you, your intelligence, the size, your effort, etc., right? Even though bodybuilding is completely temporary, and at one point, everybody needs to slim down, whether that's at 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, maybe 65 years old. Well, most people retire from their job, right? At one point, you need to slim down and become a little bit smaller. And a lot of people will try to discredit you or say that it was futile, such a temporary state. Bodybuilding is pointless. That's probably the hardest part of dealing with it. But it's also the easiest part to deal with it because you can simply turn it off. You cannot read the comments. You don't have to. Really, you don't have to read the comments. I understand if you're very active on social media, but even some of the guys on social media, they go through this process. They will either buffer old pictures. So you see old pictures, from like a year ago when they were absolutely shredded. Maybe they're going through the exact same process, but they don't want to deal with the comments. They don't want to be honest about it. They're, being a little bit smaller and less impressive looking for a certain period of time, for whatever reason. So you can deal with it that way by posting old comments, old content, or simply disappearing from social media. Now, if you don't have that issue, you're not on social media, you're not a guy with a somewhat large or a following on social media, you don't have to deal with those comments. But if you are, you will have to deal with it. And it's not good for your mental state, I'll tell you that. So I'll give you guys a brief overview of the comments that you can expect when you're undergoing this process. Just from my personal experience, as your muscle mass is slowly spiraling down to muscle mass that's comparable to the general population, at least when you're sitting like this, with your arms a little bit relaxed, and then you always have to throw up the bicep shots to show that you actually have a hint of muscle going on. So as you're going from bodybuilder to gen pop, the comments will change. And in the beginning, the comments might still be good. Steve, you look so much younger. Steve, you look so much better. Your face is more streamlined and you still look big. Your skin texture is better. Your hair it's regrowing. You get a lot of compliments. You feel good about yourself. And you're almost convinced that, maybe I should stay off cycle. Maybe I can maintain all this mass, size, and strength. That's within the first 2 months as the hormones are slowly declining from your system. And at one point, you start your post-cycle therapy. The Nolvadex and the clomiphene is, keeping your IGF-1 levels a little bit suppressed. Your strength goes down further. Your nutrient partitioning goes down, and then you start to look smaller, not as impressive as you were before, and people start to question, now he's starting to lose size. Look, he's already looking a lot smaller than he did before, but he still looks like a bodybuilder. Steve, you're taking this PCT pretty well. PCT is over. If you're still going to the gym for a while, you might still be able to sustain some size. I did. I trained for a month after my PCT, and now that I stopped training, the size is definitely going away. During the testosterone experiment, I still got some compliments, but it mostly changed into, man, you're not as strong as you used to be. Man, you're not as impressive as you used to be. Your shoulders and traps and your arms and your entire physique is, you'll start to look like a swimmer, I've heard it all, man. I've heard it all. It's, you need a lot of confidence and you need to brush it off a little bit as hating, like you have to do this a little bit. Because it's, the jabs will come from every angle. The comment section, your immediate surrounding, everywhere. Then at one point, like right now, when I stop training and I'm doing a fasting mimicking diet, where I'm basically not eating any protein, direct carbohydrates, or fat sources, so my caloric intake is 500 calories per day, then the comments will be like this. 1,000 milligrams of trenbolone, and all he has to show for it is this? Look at this guy. Why is he talking about drugs when he has no muscle? Yeah, that's the comments that I got. And I completely understand this because I used to make the exact same comments before I underwent this process of being absolutely phenomenally large and strong and hard and being a raging bodybuilder. And then you get a little bit smaller and you start to understand, yeah, maybe it kind of sucks, to go through this process. And you start to understand that these comments are not very warranted or respectful or just nice to say. Because those comments adds up, whether you get them from your immediate surroundings or if you're on social media in the comment section, it certainly doesn't contribute to your mental health. So you might need to take a vacation from reading the comments altogether. So the comments you'll start with compliments about looking more youthful and your skin texture improved and you look better off the juice, to the point where people make fun of you and don't even want to listen to words you have to say. Even though the muscle mass is going away, but the knowledge is always increasing, right? I mean, every day you learn something new and you know how to apply the knowledge that you gained in the past a little bit better. So, knowledge is increasing, muscle mass is declining. But in bodybuilding, in the fitness industry, size equals knowledge. So, the comments is just something you have to deal with, and they will get progressively worse and more abusive as you get smaller. And maybe if you stay small at a certain size for about a year, people come to acceptance just like you came to acceptance about your newfound muscularity or lack of muscularity and maybe improved cardiovascular endurance, which doesn't really translate into the screen. So again, you'll have to deal with it. Just be ready. The comments will go from compliments to abusive over the course of 4 months. So hopefully you can get some mental strength, fortitude, and, build a little bit of a wall around yourself to flick those comments off. And then you'll be okay. And if you can't deal with the comments, you're going to have to disappear and live the new normal COVID style and just stay home and wear a hoodie and a long sleeve and another long sleeve underneath so you have a little bit of padding whenever you get into a Zoom conference call. Anyway, that's probably the hardest part of doing slim down and probably the hardest roadblock that you're going to face when you're retiring from bodybuilding because, since most bodybuilders are large for maybe a decade or maybe even 2 decades and it's been a progressive journey upwards, or you slowly get bigger over the years and, every time you meet people that you didn't see for 6 months, you get the compliments like, dude, you're even bigger. Bro, I can't believe you put up another 10 pounds, right? Even for the guys that you don't see that on a daily basis. Or your family members that you might see only during Thanksgiving for whatever reason that's underlying. You get another compliment. Dude, you gained so much size. You shouldn't get any bigger than this. You're good as you are. And then the next year they will tell you the exact same thing, right? And then during this Thanksgiving dinner, they will say, bro, what happened? Why are you so much smaller, right? This kind of stuff. And that's probably the hardest part that you have to deal with because you're so used to the compliments and, the positive reinforcement. So hopefully you have a supportive partner or a couple friends that don't take these jabs, but you might have to stop with social media for a while and not read the comments or just go on a vacation completely from bodybuilding and put your efforts somewhere else. It's, the anxiety that I used to have as a larger bodybuilder, around 240, 250 pounds, that anxiety is completely gone. So that's a positive thing, right? When I go outside, I'm not susceptible to the stares anymore because I'm smaller. I look closer to the general population. Even though there's muscle there, it's certainly not as pronounced as it was before, right? So I don't feel I get stared at all the time like I did before. So that's a blessing in disguise, honestly. So even though you might not get as many compliments as you did in the past, you get less stared at also. So you can, disappear into, the general population and just be an ordinary guy for a change. Really, it's really nice. Really, it's really nice. Just like when I was traveling, you becoming the invisible man. That's the invisible man scenario where you just blend in, you do your thing, and nobody perceives you to be special. You don't get all this attention for unnecessary reasons. And maybe you speak the same language as the people around you if you live in a foreign country, and you can simply listen to what people have to say, but you don't have to interact. Really, it's very calming and soothing and relaxing. I'll tell you that. And I'll leave you guys with this. Bodybuilding is temporary. Health is forever. And passion is indefinite. And you can put that everywhere. But you have to keep this passion going. And don't be afraid to spread it out over a couple different aspects. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find those ebooks on my website, VigorousSteve.com/shop. Follow me on Instagram @VigorousSteve. If you're looking for personalized advice, you can find the rates to my services on my website as well. Contact me directly if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.